Imagine I'm sitting here recording a video and a guy bursts in and beats me up. He takes all my stuff, burns down my apartment and runs away. Thankfully, the police catch up with him and they bring him in front of the judge. And the judge says, "Look, I know you beat that guy up and took all his stuff and burned down his apartment, but I'm a kind and loving guy, so I'm not going to punish you for that. I'm just going to let you go free." Hopefully, you would not be on board with that verdict, because hopefully you get that a good judge doesn't just let criminals go free. A good judge looks at the evil people do and says, this has got to stop. When people do the wrong thing, there need to be consequences. And these consequences aren't the opposite of goodness and love. It's exactly because of their goodness and love that a good judge is so dedicated to stopping the bad stuff that people do. I bring this up because there's a bunch of places in the Bible where God describes himself as a judge, the judge of the whole world. And I think a lot of the time when people imagine this, they picture God as this like angry tyrant who's looking for excuses to punish people. But that's not how the Bible describes God at all. When God describes himself as a judge, he's saying he's our loving king who looks out at everything that's broken in the world and says, this has got to stop. If God looked out at all the evil that people do to each other and to the world and to him, and his reaction was just, yeah, but I'm nice though, so I'm not going to punish you, I'm just going to let you all keep doing it, he wouldn't be a loving God at all. If God just lets the bad guys go free, he's not a good God. If God is going to be a God of love, which he is, then he also needs to be the God who wipes out evil, which he also is. God's justice isn't the opposite of his love. It's one of the most important parts of his love. It's because of God's amazing love that Jesus promises to return one day, to wipe out all evil everywhere and to make the world our perfect home again. The promise of Easter is that history isn't just this endless cycle of good and bad and good and bad. Our broken world won't stay broken forever. Jesus is coming back, and when he returns, he'll bring God's perfect justice once and for all. No more pain and suffering, no more broken families or broken friendships, no more lies, no more war, no more heartbreak, no more injustice, no more death. God's justice is good news, but it also leads us to a pretty huge problem. Because a good God doesn't just let the bad guys go free, but the thing is, the world isn't just neatly split up into good guys and bad guys. It's not just that there are a few bad guys out there somewhere that God needs to deal with and then everything else will be okay. The line between good and evil cuts straight through the middle of every human heart. We all hurt each other. We all contribute to what's gone wrong with the world, sometimes by accident, but sometimes on purpose. So if God's going to wipe out all evil, how can he do that without wiping us out too? Well, that's what Easter's all about. This is why Jesus came to die, because God is our good judge who's dedicated to bringing consequences for our sin. But God is also our kind Father who is dedicated to forgiving sin. How can he be both those things at the same time? Because 2,000 years ago on a hill outside Jerusalem, all of God's judgment, all of those right and fair consequences for the evil that we do to one another and to him, it all came down. But it didn't come down on us. When we look at the cross, we see God taking all of the punishment for our sin onto himself. When we look at the cross, we see Jesus, the innocent one, being treated as if he was guilty, so that if we put our trust in him, we, the guilty ones, can be treated as if we're innocent. And so even though we're all part of what's gone wrong with the world, when we put our trust in Jesus, we don't have to worry about God's judgment, because we know that all the judgment for our sins has already come down on Jesus. And when Jesus rose from the dead, he proved that he really was who he said he was, and he proved that this plan actually worked. Which means that now, if we're friends with Jesus, we can look forward to the great day when he returns to wipe out all the bad stuff and make this world our perfect home again, because we know that our bad stuff has already been taken care of.